Good evening, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, and it's time for another edition of Open Action Network's Friend of a Wounded Heart program. We come to you week after week, seeking to build a better society through building strong foundations. So before we begin this evening's proceedings, I'll ask Marjorie to say a word of prayer first, please. Marjorie. Cheryl, we're not hearing from Marjorie. Could you do that first, please? Okay, Cheryl was just speaking. Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
Heavenly Father, we do want to thank you for bringing us once again to another program this evening. It's on the clicking and logging on of those who would be coming on this program tonight, Lord. Help it to help us to help others, help us to be aware of our surroundings and what is going on. Thank you for giving us health and strength and sound mind as we go through our daily routines. Continue being with us and continue blessing this program. May the internet cooperate with us tonight so the program could be recorded, so it could be shared, and others would benefit also. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cheryl. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our program. We truly appreciate your support. You've been coming to us week after week, joining with us and sharing in our discussions. And we have been here 115 times. So this is session 116. Why are we here? Hope and Action Network's vision is to build a better society built on strong foundations through the empowerment of everyone. So all our sessions are aimed at empowering persons. And we do hope that you share the recordings, and when you receive the invitation, share the link as well so that others will join us. We have been dealing with some very important topics last week. We dealt with that romance scam, and we saw how someone can travel miles, thousands of miles, believing a lie. Believing a lie. Hopefully, when people realize what's happening, when we mount programs like these, others could be educated so that they will not fall into those traps. I want to go right into this week's program. Parents beware. Financial sextortion is real. I prepared a PowerPoint for this evening's program. I felt that you needed to see some of the things as opposed to hearing it. But before I go to that PowerPoint, I want to read from an article of February 2nd, 2025. And it says, cyber experts warn. Cyber experts warn. What are they warning about? The cyber experts are realizing what is happening, and they are warning us to be careful. They warn parents of a growing online trend. And Joel Julian is the author, and he says the deaths by suicide of at least 2 teenagers in this country recently have been linked to a disturbing and growing trend known as financial sextortion. And so they are warning parents and children about the dangers of this threat, which has already contributed to multiple teen suicides worldwide. And the writer says we don't want the victims' deaths to be in vain, and so we need to raise awareness on these issues. We need to let people know what is taking place. These crimes are taking place globally, and Trinidad and Tobago is not excluded. And I would imagine St. Lucia is not excluded, and St. Vincent is not excluded, and nowhere is excluded. The writer says that last week in North Dakota, there was the 42nd confirmed teen suicide related to financial sextortion since it started at the end of 2021. In North Dakota, a 14-year-old girl was catfished and blackmailed, never surviving to learn that the girl she thought she was messaging was actually a group of criminals in the Ivory Coast in West Africa. And so we know that the Department of Homeland Security in the US has been working feverishly to investigate and bring to justice the perpetrators of this crime. Financial sextortion is real. It is real. It is in Trinidad and Tobago, and it has been linked to at least 2 recent suicides. So I said that I prepared a PowerPoint, and I am hoping that you would jump in and question and give points so that we can really illuminate this and find some solutions. I'm going to offer some solutions as well. So I am going to share the PowerPoint that was prepared on financial sextortion, and you will be surprised to know how these criminals do what they do. I see Eustace is on and he's here early. And Eustace, yes, we are going to be expecting you to join in our discussion based on where you sit and what you do. So parents beware, financial sextortion is real. And we know that prank calls were a problem in the past for adults as well as teens. But now the predators use phones to stalk and to blackmail teens on social media and dating apps. Predators stalking teens and stalking adults as well on social media and dating apps. And the individual we focused on last week was in her 70s. In her 70s. And she was stalked and she was tricked and she traveled all the way to Brazil thinking that she was going to have a better life. But what is sextortion? Before we go to financial sextortion, we'll talk about sextortion. We know about extortion, but this is a new thing. Sextortion is the act of threatening to share nude or explicit images. And it is very, very, very common. It is affecting young teens and it is also affecting adults. And over the past 2 years, the numbers have increased exponentially. It is a problem. The Department of Homeland Security investigations in the United States of America said that they received over 3,000 sextortion tips in 2022. How does this sextortion progress? Someone would target, and it has been happening among boys as well, boys between 14 and 17, they noticed. Adult predators pose as young girls. They are posing as young girls and pretending that they're interested in these young boys romantically. And they join their gaming platforms and apps and social media sites, and they reach out to these young people. Then the teens respond, when they get accustomed to these people, they ask them to expose parts of their body on webcam or to send nude photos to their new online friend in inverted commas. And some of these teens respond. You see the mind can be controlled by people and what they say and do. So when they expose their bodies or they send nude pictures, the new friend threatens to expose them by publicizing the photos unless they pose for more explicit photos or they send money. So they threaten them and send me more pictures, or I'll show people the ones that I have. Send me more pictures, or I send me more money, or I'm going to expose your pictures. And remember, I said you can come in at any time and ask questions or make a comment. What do you think of people who do this kind of thing? Tell me.
Well, first off, Joan, I would say people that do that are evil. And at the very beginning, I would say, I can't trust everything that you hear online, you know. So even though the people evil, they only as powerful over you as you allow them to be.
Indeed. Indeed.
You tell a teenager that you have power, in an essence, when they don't. I think the conversation is similar to last week, where people get online and think people are their friends.
Yes.
Because we live in a society that we are not speaking to each other. We spend so much time scrolling and on Facebook being spectators in other people's lives. Parents, adults, they don't even speak to their children, but they'll find time to be on these media. These are kids, lonely children, vulnerable children. Where are parents? We blame everything on predators, but if we secure our children and teach them right and wrong, good morals, they are less likely to engage in these things, especially when they have a community. They could go to a church community, parents who really care. Today I was speaking to a parent, and she said, my daughter don't want to go to school. And I said, why doesn't she want to go to school? She said, the teacher is mean. And I said, you haven't had a conversation with the teacher yet? I think we are the parents, we are the ones who are neglecting our children and exposing them to all these things. Because you have to pay attention.
Indeed.
It gets me mad because I'm not a mother anymore. I'm a grandmother now. So it gets me mad that we sit down, give up our children to everybody and talk about predators. Predators has always been there. But we have to pay attention. Kids locked up in room with computer, you don't know. That's how you could be in a home, you're so separated from everybody. Nobody knows what you're doing. Your door is locked. Who's paying the rent? Who's paying the mortgage? I'm sorry.
Yes, you're raising some very serious points there. I saw Glenda's hand up. Glenda, could you speak now, please?
Joan, I heard what the sister said, but I always remember a statement that it is you, the person, that has to have self-respect. There's a saying that goes, a woman could be a prostitute, but her daughters does not have to choose the same way. Meaning, you have to love yourself. And even though you may be lonely and stuff, you have to love yourself. And that's my contribution, because I don't see, I'm not a child anymore, but every child that grows, you have to have some self-worth planted somewhere in you. Because if the statement is true that a prostitute have children who do not become prostitutes, even though they know their mother was like that, they choose not to. So if you have self-worth, you're going to tell yourself, I am not exposing my body to nobody. Yes, grief and sadness and loneliness, all these things factor in. But in yourself, you must have self-worth.
Glenda, I agree, but I also want to say that self-worth is something that we learn based on our circumstances,
Amen.
based on the
Amen.
messages we receive from those around us, sometimes based on our failures and successes. So it is a work in progress, and it is something that all adults have a hand in. We have a hand in building up our children's self-worth.
I agree.
And a
Yes.
kid
I agree.
cannot decide that she's not going to be a prostitute. That's a reaction formation by watching what happened to your mother, that you are not going
According
to
to
put yourself
Freud,
in that.
eh?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
These are children. Most of the people who are sexually exploited like that, they are kids.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerable kids. How many kids are abused right in their homes and nobody knows? Recently, I had a friend from America. She's a nurse. She came by, and there was something so sad about her. And I asked, she said she's just traveling now and whatever. And I said, why? And she recounted being abused by church elders. And she told her mother, and her mother beat her. Then she was abused by her father, who went to England and came back as a teenager. He met her and sexually abused her. She couldn't tell her mother. What's going on with young people out there? We created this whole world, and Satan is having fun with the social media because we are distracted.
Yes, we are.
Our children are not being covered. Come on. How do you tell a child if somebody befriends you on these entity and tell you how you're the nicest person? You have a friend, you run home to talk to this friend because they love you and they know so much about you. How do you have to begin by telling them and warning and
Yes.
parents, we don't talk to kids during dinner time. We don't talk about what's going on in the news. Who's talking to our children? They're going to school every day. The teacher is absent. Come on. We got to do better.
Yes,
We
Marjorie,
can't
we'll
our
offer some
children.
tips. We'll offer some tips a little later on. But
Okay.
let's tear this thing apart and see the nature of it. So sometimes adult predators would deceive and manipulate young males into engaging in explicit activity over video. So it's not just exposing the body part. Sometimes they will give them instructions and the youngsters would follow. And what are the predators doing? They're secretly recording them. And then the predator will reveal that they have the recording and they're going to threaten to post the clips online if the victim does not pay up. It's wicked. And what are the effects? This victim feels terrified, dehumanized, violated, ashamed. It is an emotionally devastating situation for this young person. They feel embarrassed. They feel hopeless. They feel isolated. I mean, who wants to have these things shared online? And many feel as though they have nowhere to turn. And so some of them take their lives, not knowing that help is available. It is sad. It is sad. Trinidad and Tobago is included in this. It is a worldwide phenomenon. It is a worldwide problem. Traditional sextortion is different from financial extortion. Traditional sextortion occurs when a victim is threatened or blackmailed into providing more sexual imagery. So they have your images, your videos, and so on, and they will tell you to send more or they will share the ones that they have. And so the youngsters or even adults will just share, trying to prevent this person from sharing and embarrassing them. But the financial sextortionist is the one who demands money or gift cards in exchange for keeping the images private. And about 79% of the predators nowadays are seeking money. 79%. That is a high number. What do they do? They develop a false rapport with the victim. They be very friendly and tell you nice things. And they secretly record these videos and messages while you're chatting. And sometimes one person is using multiple identities to contact this child. Sometimes they pretend to be younger or a member of the opposite sex. Very often, they pretend to be younger and a member of the opposite sex. So this child who was committed suicide in North Dakota thought that she was communicating with a lovely young man. She was communicating with criminals, wicked people, bandits. And so we have to be very cautious. We heard Marjorie passionately warning parents and reminding us of our responsibilities. We have to be cautious and we have to talk to young people. Now is not the day to nice up things and tell them in parables. We have to open it out and say it as it is. The criminals also hack the accounts. So if you have sexual images on your computer or phone, they will try to hack into your phone. You may not have it, but they'll try to hack the phone to find them. Some of them are so wicked that if you refuse to send images, they'll say, I'll kill myself. You know, I love you so much and I want to see what you look like. If you don't send it, I'll kill myself. And so the victim feels guilty and they would send the images. The criminals also would visit your social media profile to find out more about you. They will try to find your friends list on Facebook and Instagram and so on. And they will search for other personal information that could harm your reputation. They are unrelenting. They will go to all lengths to ensure that they get what they want. And remember, 79% of them are looking for money. So once they have these images, they are going to blackmail you. I'm going to post these and let the world see if you don't send money. Now, a teenager can't find money to send. What is this young person going to do? Some of them become so hopeless that they commit suicide.
And some of them, most of them, they look at who are these kids, the wealth attached to them, because they have all the information on Facebook, who are their friends.
Yes.
But most of these kids can't go to their parents because they feel ashamed. But they don't ask for money because they think you'll find money. They know your parents have at least some money, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, some of them send friend requests and they approach the teen and flatter them, all kinds of compliments, and they promise romantic relationships. Think about the lady we looked at last week and what happened to her. They start what appears to be a genuine conversation to strike up a close friendship. They befriend you. They don't ask for the pictures on the first meeting. No. They try to build a friendship. And then you begin to fall for this person and feel a certain way about this person. And then they strike. Sometimes they offer things that they know the child loves. Okay, so you want to be a model? All right, I can get you a modeling contract. Send some pictures to me now. Or they may give you credits for the online games or codes to access, because some of these games you have to pay for. Or they may offer you money, cryptocurrency or gift cards in exchange for a quick picture. And some would hack your computer to find material. Then what do they do? We said they threaten to expose the material if you refuse to comply with the demands. Some of them may even tell lies and say, I already have pictures of you. I already got pictures and I'm going to distribute them, or I will harm you. And I will send somebody to stalk you. I will harm your mommy or your cousin or your brother or your little sister or someone who you care about. So it is a wicked thing, and they go further
Yeah.
and further into it.
Manipulation.
It is manipulation. It is. Oh, and they are so crafty that first they contact you on one
Holly,
platform, and
come
when
and
they
knock at the door because I open the door for you.
could you mute please? They commonly contact you on one platform, and then they ask you to move to another platform, a second one, and sometimes a third platform. So they move to platforms that are encrypted, use encrypted messaging. And this would prevent people from tracking their crimes. It makes it more difficult. They also record and they preserve your entire chats and your videos. They visit social media profiles, as we said before. They comb through your friends list and they get as much personal information as they can because they want to use that to harm your reputation if you don't send them money. So how can we help these victims? If we know that somebody is being sextorted, we have to report the criminal. And we have to save the conversations and chats and messages between the predator and the victim. And refuse to pay or send any more images. Refuse to pay, refuse to send any more images. So if you know somebody who's experiencing this, no. Tell them don't pay any money. Don't send any more images. If they have, they're already out there. Don't encourage it. Look, in 2021, the Homeland Security of Investigations in the United States arrested 3,776 persons for perpetrating crimes against children. And they rescued or identified 1,177 child victims of sexual exploitation and abuse. So it is there, it is out there, it is here. So as adults, what do? We have to keep the lines, and Marjorie was saying that, talk to the children, keep the lines of communication with the children open, talk to them. They're usually embarrassed, and so they don't want to talk to the parents and teachers and caregivers or even law enforcement about what they are experiencing. But you see, we have to strike up, knowing what is happening, knowing what is around, we have to strike up all kinds of conversations with our children. Talk about everything. Don't be ashamed to talk about the real issues. It is said that one sextortionist could have hundreds of undiscovered victims around the world. So think of how many persons one person could harm, one criminal could harm, because there's some children who are carrying this burden, and then we see them acting up in all kinds of ways. And we don't know the reason. We have to keep talking to them, keep the lines of communication open, have conversations with them early about the dangers of online activity. We have to let them know what is out there. Don't let them come upon it suddenly and then don't know how to behave. As adults, we have to be a safe space. We have to let them know that we care and that we are willing to help. And then we have to take some hard lines as well. You have to limit their internet use, spot check their phones, check their other devices. And when Inspector Stanley was with us, more than once he said that you can trace things that are happening on their devices. Check to see who they're communicating with. And discuss with them what is inappropriate as well as what is appropriate online. Because you see these things could creep in and they let down their guard once, and then more serious issues could creep in. So we have to keep the conversation alive. Let them know what is appropriate and what is inappropriate online. And for some children, we may have to take their devices at nights or disconnect the Wi-Fi at a certain time Don't let them sleep with the devices. If we disconnect the Wi-Fi, I discovered that they know how to hack into the neighbor's Wi-Fi. So we really have to keep the device. And we have to constantly review the social media privacy settings. Their accounts can be kept private so people can't contact them. Did someone want to say something? I'm sure we have.
I remembered when my grandchildren were small and they got access to a phone. The parents set up things on the phone that they know who they are speaking to.
Yes.
The dad could just come take the phone, look at the phone, know who you're talking to, how long you're talking to them. And the kids have to explain, who is this person? Where do you know this person from? The phones were removed at night. You couldn't have computer in a room separate. The computer was in a area near the dining room. You don't just close the screen when somebody comes by. These are things you couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know as a grandmother, anything that's happening out there, I would call my son and said, did you see that? Have you spoken to the kids about that? Things are moving so quickly. Everything is fluid around us.
Right.
Now we have AI. It was computer. Now we have AI, which is, you could
artificial
open your
intelligence.
phone. Mm-hmm. You open your phone and they feed you things. And if you're not conscious of what you are fed, you open something and what you would find in there is so disturbing. But it's under a guise of something else that you have been watching. Our kids are not sophisticated for that, so we have to explain. Every time there's something happening, we have children, we have to talk to them. We have to educate them. That's the only hope to keep our children safe.
Indeed, Marjorie. So we must keep that conversation going. In fact, we have to start it very, very early. And we cannot afford to regard talking about sex and body parts and sexual activity and nudity and all of that. We can't keep thinking that they're taboo. No, this is a real world we're living in. And they're going to be facing the real perpetrators out there who will not hold back anything. But we have to approach the topic with empathy and openness and help them to understand that we love them, we care about them, and we want to ensure that they're safe. Let them know that they can talk to you without fear of judgment or punishment. Sometimes they're afraid because they know that we will flare up. We will give them a good tongue lashing, maybe other kinds of lashings. But in dealing with a topic like this, really, we have to show them that we love them. We have to ensure that we're not scaring them off. Warm up to them and help them to open up so that we understand.
Help them to know it's okay to make a mistake.
Yes. So if they made a mistake,
repeating the same thing is the problem.
That's right. That's right. As parents too, we have to look at the warning signs. You see, if we find that they suddenly hiding the phone when you come, or the computer is now secret, they can't get in, something is amiss. Something is amiss. You walk up and they're on the phone and suddenly they change the screen. Something is happening that they don't want you to know about. Or you may see that the moods begin to change and you can't explain why. The behaviors change and you can't understand why. It's time to investigate. It may not be sextortion. It could be drugs. It could be other things. It could be gang recruitment. Look, 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 and look again. Something is amiss. And then we may find that they want a large sum of money or they have savings and suddenly they're using up their savings. It could be that they're trying to send money to this person in an effort to stop that person from sharing the pictures or videos. We have to keep abreast of what is happening. If your teen is a victim, it's the predator to blame, not your child or you. This is what the experts are saying. If your teen is a victim, then somebody approached the teen and somebody was able to break down the fences and enter. So they're saying, don't blame the child, don't blame yourself. Reassure them that they're not alone and that help is available. Let them know that they can talk to an adult if they're experiencing cyberbullying. And teach them how to stand up for themselves and to stand up for others while not being a bully themselves. Report the incident to the cybercrime unit and the relevant social media platforms. And this information is coming directly from our authorities in Trinidad and Tobago. This part of it, what to do if your teen is a victim. We have a cybercrime unit. Report the matter. They will be able to track things down. Seek support from local organizations or counselors who are specializing in cyber crimes. So if your child is a victim, it is your responsibility to report it. It is your responsibility to report it and seek the help that the child needs. Keep the door of communication open. We said that before. And let them know that they can come to you for help. Let them know that helping will always be the first thing you're going to do for them. Your top priority. Because they're suffering, you know. They're suffering. And they'll continue to suffer more and more if the crime progresses. So if it's going on 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, that child is going to be suffering more and more and more severely. So your comfort is needed. You need to comfort the victim. Somebody's mic is open. Could you mute, please? We have to comfort the victim, and we have to help them to understand that they have been the victim of a crime. Let them know it is a crime. It is a crime, and help is available. And so help them to report the crime to the police. And as parents and adults, caregivers, we have to be cautious as well. We have to be aware and educated about the things that are happening online scams. If we don't know anything, then our children could be suffering and we don't know. And then we have to read and learn all the preventative measures and help to spread awareness. And one way to spread awareness is to share this video when it becomes available. So for everyone, we have to be cautious about accepting friend requests from people online who we don't know in real life. Sometimes a stranger might want to add you as a friend, and I have had that happening based on what is happening in Hope and Action Network. Sometimes people send a friend request, and of course, I'll check it out to see what's happening. But there are some people with no friend on their friend list, and they suddenly want to become your friend. They don't, when you check their profile, it's a new profile. They have no pictures, maybe one picture or two. No friends when you check to see who their friends are. No friends, and suddenly they want to be a friend. Those are people we have to just ignore. Don't give any personal contact information like emails and your handles, your social media names to anyone you haven't met in real life, IRL, in real life. If someone you don't know asks you for information, personally identifying information, say no. Say no. Never share your passwords. Don't share your passwords. And any passwords that you have to create for your email or your access to Facebook or Instagram or anything of the sort, Don't use like pet names and birth dates or anything that someone could guess. Sometimes they just have to look at your profile and they can guess your password. Now, there sometimes we see games on Facebook, and one person is passing the game on to the other, and so on. And they're asking you, did you ever have surgery? How many times? Have you ever been to this? How many professions have you changed? What is your favorite color? Where did you live first? And all kinds of information. Sometimes 25 questions. And you look at it as a game and answer all those questions. That person is seeking information. So we have to be careful about the games we play online. We have to put in your personal information as answer. And the questions are so random that you think it's really a game. They ask you if you have tattoos and if you have this and all kinds of things. How many children, and they mix it up so well that some people comfortably complete all the information, and then the scammers will pull what they want out of the information. We have to be extremely cautious. And children get caught up in these kinds of games and sometimes share information that can be used against them. Don't click on links in emails that come from people you don't know, because when you click on these links, that could compromise your device. And I want to put a warning here. You see those forwards that we like to send? I want to confess to people here that I don't read your forwards. I do not read them. If somebody calls me and says, well, I'm sending something for you to look at and I trust the person and all of that, I am going to do that. My phone is set to not automatically download pictures or videos. So they come up on my phone blurred, and I have to click on them to be able to see them. And most of the time, I do not click on them. There are some people who send more than forwards, 100 of them. Everyone that comes to their phone, they share it with everybody else. I don't open them. These things sometimes have all kinds of things that will be compromising your devices. So it is not good to be sharing and sharing. Anytime it has forwarded many times, well, you know, it will die right on my phone because I am not going to click on it. We have to try to avoid clicking on links. Teach your teens to report threats. So anybody threaten you, anybody tells you something that's off key, report it. They might be stressed, they may be embarrassed, but talk to them about online safety and encourage them to let you know if they receive anything that is suspicious in an email or a text and so on. We also have to be aware of some of the recording devices that we purchase. There are some devices that have low security, and baby monitors are of such. Nanny cams are like that. They're easy for people to exploit. So we have to be cautious about what it captures in our homes. And we're told that we should assume that our webcam or any recording device that we have can be activated remotely. For the senior persons like me in here, our devices can be controlled remotely once the person knows how to do it. If something is wrong with my computer, I can call up a technician and they could work on my computer once I give them codes and they have the access and so on. They could be working on my computer right where I am sitting here and fixing it. So the scammers can be on your computer doing stuff too. And you say, but I didn't give anybody my computer. I didn't lend my computer. Nobody came home. Yeah, somebody came home. They came home virtually because of something that was compromised. So we have to be careful. So let's assume that our webcam or recording device could be activated remotely. Never have your phone or other electronic camera devices pointed at you while undressing or you're in a position that you don't want the world to see you in. I know on Hope and Action Network we've had to edit videos already because persons were not conscious of the fact that the cameras were on and they were doing private stuff. When you're not using the webcam, you can cover it, you can have a built-in cover or use a sticker or a piece of tape to cover it so we can cover up so that nobody has access to any of our nude photos. This brings me to the end of the PowerPoint and back to you so that we can continue our discussion. I see we have 25 persons, 25, and I'm number 26. So we had a mouthful, and we had Glenda and Marjorie along the way dropping in with their comments and advice. Yes, Eustace, go ahead.
Well, Sister Bob, well, one of the things, we have to keep in mind that child pornography is illegal,
It
So
is.
even if someone wants to spread or circulate any kind of illegal material that they may get from a child, the ones who receive the material,
Should not share.
shouldn't receive it. And even if you do receive it, you should go and report it. I remember I was reading a case some years ago with this gentleman that came from Africa and he had pornographic material on his phone of a child. And here now you go to go and you get locked up and charged,
Yeah.
and deported from UK.
Mhm.
And deported from UK. So be wary of that. I can't remember the name of the case right now. But
Yeah.
that is how serious that is.
That is good advice. Thanks for that advice, Eustace. And let's remember we are not to share. We are not to share these things. It comes to our phone, somebody sends it, let it die there. Delete it. Don't share it to anybody. We love too much juicy kinds of things, and so that crime is nothing juicy. It is not entertaining to see somebody being unkind to a child. And while we say they should have morals and values, the extortionists they manipulate and exploit young children whose minds are foolish. The mind of a child is foolish. That's why they need us to guide them. And adults who know better will get into a child's device and play with games with that child and then encourage that child to strip and encourage that child to perform acts on themselves. These are criminals who need to be arrested and charged and jailed for exploiting children. Does anybody else want to comment?
I think parents, some parents, we need to be jailed too for lack of protecting our children. I firmly believe that if we speak to our children, make sure you don't, in our society here in our country, we are very abusive. And sometimes our own kids don't want to talk to us about anything because they are afraid of being told they are stupid and they're embarrassing. So they don't. They suffer alone. A few years ago, I know this was happening to grown-ups, adults. They were of age. They had a boyfriend and they broke up, and the boyfriend would extort or show the pictures to different person or circulate it on social media. This was happening in Trinidad until the law came out that you can be jailed, and that quickly died down because that was a problem.
Yes, it happened to one of our beauty queens.
Yes, I think as parents, other than praying for your kids, is having healthy conversation, discussing issues that comes up. And parents who are giving these kids these devices have to know how to operate them, how to search them, how to look through them so that you can protect your kids. because the sophistication out there with these criminals, they would even fool an adult, less more a kid.
Yes.
And you have to pay attention. Once you see your child has changed, her mode, her temper, everything has changed about her, you got to ask the question. You got to be an investigator. You got to be a detective. If you can't say it out loud, you got to question. So as parents, especially in these days of technology and AI, artificial intelligence, you have to be careful. We have to be careful.
Indeed, Marjorie.
We have to choose. We look at what we engage in.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to kids, I'm very passionate about children, and it drives me crazy. Anyhow,
yes, and as adults, if we know that children have been exposed, it is our responsibility to report it to the police or any other authority so designated to seek the welfare of children. We have to report it. So we cannot keep it a secret. We have to report it. It must be reported.
Pleasant good night to all.
Yes, Bishop.
Okay, we're saying that parents has a great responsibility to train their child or children. As the Bible says, train up a child in the way he or she should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. But sometimes, as a child, your parents are very rough with you, very abusive, and the child will grow up with a low esteem, very low esteem. And so when they go outside, they can be easy victim to person concerning what the topic is.
Yes.
Because they will tell them, well, you know, girl, you look beautiful, you're good looking, and they will fall for these things. But if they're properly trained at home and spoken to, and they ask them, how was your day at school? You sit down as a parent and talk with them one-on-one. I think they will not be easily, go from the way that they were taught. So I believe that parents has a great responsibility in instilling the right things in their children's life. That's my little point for tonight.
Thank you. Yes, parents, we have a great responsibility. Adults, we have a great responsibility. Some of us are teachers and so we have the ability to influence the children in some way or the other. And sometimes teachers say things to children that are not so kind. Sometimes we break down their self-esteem. And we did a session earlier, some time ago, on self-worth, self-esteem, self-concept. What we do and their experiences contribute to how they feel about themselves. We have a role to play in the level of self-efficacy, what they feel they can do or can't do. And so we have to be careful about what we say to them, what we say about them, and what we do to them. I'm sure there are others who would like to share. I see Sharon. Sharon, welcome.
Good night. It's been a while. I miss you guys, so I'm here tonight.
Thank you.
I just want to share one thing though about the games.
This is the doctor's mommy. Remember Doc who was here with us 2 weeks ago? This is mommy. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. The mother said that the child was playing a video game, and she heard a male voice while the game was playing. So she said, "Who is this?" And the child called her name. The child didn't know from whence that person came from. And sometimes this is how the perpetrator would sneak into our houses, come in with our children, befriend them through the video game. So we as parents, we have to even look at the video games, pay attention sometimes, just pop in now and again to see who is on the game, because they would share the games with their friends, and that person would put up a child face, but is an adult person.
Right.
After after the trust is built with the child, then the person will start to come over to them and let them know is an adult because they have already formed a relationship with that child. So sometimes we as parents, we have to pop in. You know, sometimes we just leave them and he or she's playing video game. But no, we have to pop in because sometimes the perpetrator is right there, ready to destroy our children.
Yes. Yes.
That's my little piece for tonight.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Does anybody else want to come in? I think I saw Teresa on. Yes, Teresa is here. Teresa.
Good night, everyone. Good night. I'm here, just quietly listening. I mean, this is really, really a very, very informative, discussion tonight. And while you were talking there, and Sharon, I agreed to, and all of you, I was thinking about a video that I sent around already to some parents and schools and so on. And I think I will look for it, that there's a stranger in your home. A stranger in your home,
Yes.
Even though your child is right inside and your doors are locked, there is a stranger in your home. And I will look for that video. I will look for it. It's a very short video, but it's really nice. And I think, more schools and so on should have that, and parents should have that. I have sent it around and I don't know where it is now. But what you all are saying, it's really happening. And you mentioned somebody committing suicide or something in is North Dakota, you said? I can't
Yes,
remember
and I
where.
also spoke about 2 persons from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, but it's happening right here, right here in this point in time. So it is something that parents, I thank God already that my children are grown, but they have children and they too have to be very, very careful and cautious with what's going on out there. It's really a sad situation, very, very sad situation. So, I think this session here really, I wish it could really be distributed all around so people could listen to it. Yeah, so
Yes.
I really applaud the topic. I applaud the topic. Yes.
Thank you,
And all
Teresa.
and Marjorie and Eustace and everyone who spoke, you always have these people who are there ready to go.
Yes. Yes, and locally, the writer was saying that when the teen blocks one account, the perpetrators will come back using another account. One of our information technology experts, Darren Duray, said that locally, one of the teens who died by suicide was lured into what appeared to be an online friendship. The perpetrator intimidated the teen into sharing material that was ultimately used as a leverage against the teen. So they promised that they will share the pictures and so on. And the situation spiraled out of control. And because the teen felt pressure and shame, that teen committed suicide. Mr. Bissessa attended, it was not Bissessa, it's our opposition leader, attended the funeral of one of the teenagers who died by suicide here as a result of financial sextortion. And we're told that this deceased was under extreme duress and would have felt forced to act. So while we are training our children, the perpetrators are trying everything to cause them to perform the acts. The deceased was intimidated, embarrassed, pushed into a corner where they thought they didn't have a choice. The deceased was a victim of that organized international cybercrime, Mrs. Bissessa said. And we know this as we interacted directly with the scammers after the victim's death. So after the death, remember the scammer would not give up and they interacted directly with them. This incident can be classed as financial sextortion. It's happening in the United States. It's happening all over the world. And let me correct something. It was not the opposition leader. It was a Mr. Bissessor, sorry. He said that people should not underestimate how persuasive this scammer can be. They are very persuasive. And we know children do not possess the kind of maturity to stand up against these people. And this is why parents have to be vigilant. This is why we have to be cautious. This is why we have to ensure that we educate our children. This is why we have to keep the lines of communication wide open so that we could save our children. Nancy's there. Nancy, what's the situation where you are? How is it? Okay, I see her there, but maybe she stepped away. I was trying to get some information from St. Lucia to see what's happening there. Okay, while we wait on her, would anybody else like to make a comment?
Yes,
Any
I'd
experience?
like to make a comment. Good evening,
Good
everyone.
evening. Good evening.
Yes, it's more as a question. Do you believe because both mothers and fathers are working after work, they go in classes, or sometimes they do it online home? So as a result, they're trying to get all, so the children now have too much time by themselves, because you forget if children is there because you want to do your work so that you will get a doctorate and whatever. I believe that too is what causing the breakdown. And again too, it is good that you, if you cannot pray with the children, I prefer in the morning. Everyone gather together and you pray, asking for God guidance, because sometime in the evening, the children are tired or everybody, and you can't really do something proper. So I believe this is why everybody is being distant. So you live in a house, father, mother, brother, sister, whoever. You don't even know what one another like, because everybody have the device and in the separate corner. So I think that is what causing the breakdown. And the parents who should be online now and hearing what is being said so that they could change their attitude. These people do not want to come on. They find like it's a waste, because I invite about 10 persons and they said, yes, they're coming. And all I looked to and said,
Yes, yes, Lynn. Now, there are a number of factors that could contribute to the lack of supervision. A number of them. It could be working parents. It could be parents who are studying. It could be simply that parents are at home on their devices. It could be that we now live in larger homes. Children have their own bedrooms. We know when we were growing up, we didn't have our own bedrooms. We lived in very small homes and our parents were always there. Now we are in homes. Some children, multiple children in a home, and each one have their bedroom and they have multiple devices. So the devices, they cannot access the children if they don't have the devices. So they have the devices and they need the devices because the world has changed. We have to be able to call our children, find them during the day. They have to submit work. They're studying on their devices as well. So there's good and bad with respect to these devices, but we have to monitor as parents. And we have to also do an assessment of ourselves. Am I spending enough time chatting with my children? Do I know what they're doing? How often do I go into their bedrooms? Well, of course, I go in all the time, even though my grandson is a big man now, I'm in there all the time. In there. Whether he's here or not, I am in there. I have a key. I could go in when I want, even though, well, we lock the rooms at nights, but I could always go in because I have a key. And I go in. I go in and I check on things. I check to see what is happening. As parents, caregivers, guardians, we have a responsibility. We must not let go, because the criminals, they are unrelenting. They mean that they need to get things by any means necessary. And while the ones initially who started sextortions were perverts who simply needed to see and to perhaps share, these new ones are the financial extortionists who are using the videos and pictures to blackmail the teens. And a poor teenager has no defense against anything like that. Do you know what it is to be embarrassed, to be let down, to feel violated, to feel as though you just disappointed your parents and everybody because this thing is about to be shared on social media and your parents will know about it? So what do? They end their lives. They can't stand up to these criminals. And remember, I said earlier, some of the criminals play on their minds. They play on their minds and make them feel like they're so in love with them that they want to see what they're like and so on. They want to see what they look like. And if you don't send the picture to me, I'm going to kill myself. Well, kill yourself. But my picture is not coming to you. We have to train our young people to be strong and to have high morals and values. Understanding too that their children still growing, still maturing, and do not have what it takes to stand up against these criminals who do what they do as a form of income, as Marjorie said about before. We can still take comments. And I want to encourage you to share the recording. The internet is stable tonight. We seem to be doing well. And I must apologize for last week's recording. We never got it. Didn't have it at all. And maybe, someone was saying maybe it was for the good. We never know. Nothing happens by accident, because I know some people shared personal information on it, said that they lived alone and so on. And maybe that was not to go out to the world. So we were not able to save last week's recording, but share this one, please, so that people will know what is happening. Hey, Dovicia, I didn't hear you this evening, did I? Did Dovicia speak? If you spoke, I forgot. As a teacher, maybe we can hear from you, hear some thoughts from you if you choose to. If not, then I just want to remind everyone that as adults, we have a responsibility to take care of our children. We have to teach our children that all that glitters is not gold. And this was one of the points that we used last week as we spoke about the romance scam. We have to teach our children that scammers are everywhere and they cannot afford to be so trusting. We have to teach them to come to us with information, talk to us, let's know what's happening in their lives. We have to teach them to be cautious, and as adults, we have to be cautious as well. We have to protect our children, protect them. And if they made a mistake, we have to talk with them, reassure them, let them know it was a mistake, let them see what the consequences are, talk to them about the consequences, teach them to weigh consequences, weigh issues in the future, teach them to be very cautious on social media, teach them not to share their personal information, teach them not to share nude pictures, and they shouldn't even have nude pictures on their phones or computers, and to let them know that if they made a mistake, there's a friend beside you who is willing to hear and answer their prayers. Jesus, the friend of a wounded heart, which is the name of our program. So with all the hard talk and all the harsh things that we deal with, we always bring you back to the center. Jesus is the friend of a wounded heart. This is the name of our program. and that name is going to remain. Thank all of those who participated this evening in our 116th session. Next week is going to be session 117, and the topic is something in the way he or she moves. Now it's going to be Valentine's next week, Friday. So we're going to celebrate our Valentine's early on Wednesday night, and we're going to talk about what attracted us to our partners. We're going to be really discussing a very light issue next week. It was supposed to be for this week, but then when I realized what was happening with the teen suicides, and then I said next week is Valentine's, I decided to switch it up. So next week we're coming and we're going to be talking some love stories next week. I know Marjorie's going to love that one. Marjorie, I know you're going to love next week. So come prepared to just chat up and talk about what attracted us to our partners and what still attracts us today. Quite recently.
So, you know, one of the things we didn't mention.
Yes.
As our kids get older and go out into the real world, some companies go back and search them on the internet to see their footprint, to know if they would fit into the company in which they are seeking employment. So that's something very important for children who want to go places to understand.
That's right. You know, I remember asking somebody once, or did I put a comment on Facebook? If you go for an interview and the interviewers pull up your social media posts, what will they find? Will you get the job? And that's a serious question. That is a serious question. We have to be cautious, careful about what we post, the things we say. And sometimes you see big people who you think should know better posting obscenities, posting pictures, but nowadays people hardly wear clothes. And if we look at the recently concluded Grammys, was it? In LA, we will see that some people wore almost nothing. And we are following that trend in terms of our attire. We have to be careful, because what we put out there says something about us. On Sunday, I conducted a workshop on communications for a church, and I spoke about clothes. And I told the people who attended, your clothes is communicating something about you. It is. So when we want to put up pictures on Facebook and the like, Instagram, almost nude, it is telling a story. And yes, some employers would search. In fact, when you apply for certain jobs and when you apply for a visa, you have to give them your Facebook and whatever your social media handles, you have to give it to them so that they can look to see what you have been doing. We have to let our young people know that they tell stories and they write books based on what they do. Let us live up to our responsibilities as adults, as teachers, as parents, as guardians, as cousins, as aunties, grandmothers. Let us live up to our responsibilities. Let us try to save our children.
And we just don't wait to tell a kid that they are negative or they are not doing well. We have to meet them along the way. Hi, how are you doing? So when there's something wrong, you can intervene. You can say something, because then it would be heard. If you never spoke to them before and you see them doing something wrong and you say, what are you doing? Why? They're not going to hear you.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going to hear you. So we have to pay attention to everybody in our sphere of influence who are young people. We have to cover them.
Indeed.
So good night.
Indeed. Marjorie, as your mic is open. Oh, after I thank everybody again, I'd like to ask you to do the closing prayer. So thank you, everybody. This was our wonderful session. I love the feedback, and I encourage you to join us next week for a nice light session. You know, we normally have our light sessions. We celebrate together. And then when we have to have serious talk, we have our serious talk. So join us next week where we're going to have some fun and chat about our loved one. Sylvester is there and his wife. And I know we're going to hear quite a bit from them next week. Teresa and George, we're going to hear from them as well. Yes, so thank you, everybody, and see you next week. Marjorie, could you close us off, please?
Our Father and our God in heaven, it was a pleasure being with everybody this evening. Father, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercies. We thank you for your protective care over us. Father, we are living in an age that our hearts, if we are not dependent on you, will be failing us for fear. Father, watch over our children. Watch over our country. Watch over each and every one of us. Baptize us with your spirit so we can have the sense of discernment to protect our children. Bless us and cover us with your righteousness, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.